Okay, and as you can see on the our agenda, we're going to get into the discussion of expenditures by function, and we have that divided into 5 different areas. Mr. Manager, just a clarification how you want to proceed. I know we have some folks here that want to speak to different line items. Do you want to do that as we come to them? Do you want to give them an opportunity to do that now?
Well, if I could, Mr. Chairman, this presentation is very brief, but what it does is it basically summarizes our projected revenue, and that's listed as item number 4. Right now on our agenda, what I'd like to do is move that up above number 3 there on the agenda.
Move the revenues.
That's pretty clear cut. Then get into our expenditures, and basically what I'm going to do is break it down by major function and talk about a little bit of the reasons that there was an increase or decrease in those functions, and any more detail or questions or anybody from any function, if they can hold the questions till after, then that would be great. We can get through this and we can kind of get a feel for the big picture.
I know we've got folks from the school system here, and just looking around the Southwestern Community College, Warren, you the rest. So I guess we'll just get those as we get into them.
Okay, so you can do it when we're in the function, and we'll talk about it.
That's fine.
Okay,
That's your recommendation.
That's great.
All right, with that said, if nobody objects, the manager would like to move number 4 up and discuss the revenue side of the budget first. So, Mr. Rowe.
Yes, and we would like to add one more. We have a couple of budget amendments. Budget amendment number 178, 177, and 178 that our finance officer will be discussing. If we could add those to the end of the agenda, that would be great, right after number 6.
Okay. Do we need to vote to approve the agenda? Or?
I think it's fine unless anybody objects.
Okay.
Proceed.
All right, if there's no objection, we'll add those budget amendments on after the budget discussion. So, with that said,
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, board, everybody here with the school system, Southwestern, department heads, media. It seems like yesterday we were here in January, laying out the priorities for the coming fiscal year and how we're going to budget for that. And in saying that, those priorities that were laid out by the commission at that time were very clear. It was recognized the high level of service that Macon County provides to our citizens, and in the 14-15 budget year, the commissioners made it clear that they wanted that high level of service to continue. And they further directed no tax increase, and also acknowledged the many uncertainties that a forthcoming revaluation will have on the taxpaying citizens of Macon County. So, taking all that into consideration, we have formulated a budget. The proposed budget for fiscal year 14-15 is $45,521,122. Revenue and expenditures are balanced. We have stabilized our fund balance available for appropriation at 29%. That is the same amount as FY 13-14. This budget is representative of a level of service that we can provide based solely on our revenues that we receive. We're not appropriating any money out of fund balance towards operating expenses. We maintain a high level of service. The only amount that has been appropriated out of fund balance in this budget is the Parker Meadows project, and the amount in fiscal year 14-15 that the board had voted to appropriate from fund balance. Talking about the revenues, just real briefly. The ad valorem tax, we didn't see an increase. They remained pretty flat for some time. That revenue remained constant. When you look at the sales tax, we saw that a 2.32% increase over projected 13-14 sales tax revenue. So that is basically that, and the appropriated fund balance. If you look here, in this fiscal year, we're appropriating $366,642 in this recommended budget. Last year, $2.12 million was appropriated from fund balance, and that's another major difference. The rest of these revenues, like your miscellaneous, your service fees, intergovernmental revenues, they all stay the same. And if you look in the budget book that you have, when the white pages start, when it turns from tan to white, the third page back lays out all your revenues by source, and it just explains that, your property taxes according to the current year taxes, other tax, vehicle, scrap tire disposal, occupancy tax, your sales tax collections, of course, are items that are sold in the local economy. Intergovernmental revenues, that's your public school building capital fund revenues, your grants, your PILT money, your payment in lieu of taxes, money we receive from other governmental entities. Again, those stay the same. The only two revenue sources that we see difference in are the appropriated fund balance, which went from 2.1 to 366, and the sales tax revenue, which increased by 2.32% over fiscal year 13-14 numbers. Moving into expenditures, the general fund expenditures, of course, also total $45,521,122.
Eric, when you talk about that, do you have any questions about the revenue? That's very important that we at least come to a consensus that we believe that's accurate. Because if we don't, then I think expenditures have to be the same as revenues. Is that fair, Mr. Manager?
Yes, sir.
And I'd ask you this privately, but I'll ask you publicly on the sales tax. There was a small difference there. You or Lori could address what do you base the increase in the sales tax, and why do you think that would be accurate at 6.2?
Lori can speak to that more so than I, but we took a lot of things into consideration, looking at the current fiscal year numbers over what they were last year, and saw those increases, as well as we used information from the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners provided in their fearless forecast that they send out that kind of gives a guideline on what to project and for the forthcoming fiscal year, and that's pretty much what we looked at was trends and that information that was provided.
So you feel like that's a fairly conservative estimate based on, I know we've seen a general uptick in sales.
State growth was much larger, but we looked at our local growth and took that and applied that percentage to what I'm projecting 13-14 to end. Because at this point, what I'm projecting for 13-14 is a little higher than budgeted. And so, as Derek said, 14-15 numbers are based on 2.32% more than 13-14 projections. So I feel it's conservative, but conservative but realistic based on our local economy.
I'm good. Any other questions about the revenue side? And on the tax collections, Derek, that's based on our collection, our current collection.
That's based on the
That we can budget no more than the prior year collection percentage. There's a sheet in here.
and that collection rate, Mr. Chairman, is 96.51%. That's based on basically a tax base of $9.3 billion, give or take. And then our collection rate 96.51%. And like as Lord was saying, we can't budget higher than the prior fiscal year in that.
Okay. Any other questions about the revenue side? And we'll say we appreciate Congress, in particular our congressman we met with him in Washington. Maybe we were up there concerned about this payment in lieu of taxes, and that had that not been corrected, that would cost us, I don't want to call the exact figure, but several $100,000.
It was over about 360.
The problem with that is just for 1 year.
Yeah, and I was going to say that anything that I've read, it looks like that's going to continue to build up with that money.
They put it in the bottom of the farm bill this time. Hopefully they'll do it again.
And just so you know, Congressman Meadows, along with several other congressmen from areas that have a lot of national park land, particularly out west, but he was the one that sort of east led that fight, and they wound up keeping that money. I remember Swain County would have been terrible shape. They struggle as it is, but I believe, was it 70-80% of their land is in his land. So, that's a relatively small part of our revenue, but it's significant. Any other questions on the revenues?